Hi, and welcome to the Bookkeepers Podcast. I'm Zoe Whitman. I'm here with Joe Wood. And today we're very excited to be joined by Phil Hobden, who is Head of Growth and Strategy for Know It. Hi, Phil. How are you doing?
Hey, good. Well, hello to you both. Yeah, no, doing very, very well. I mean, look, let's be honest, like everyone else in this country right now, I could do it being about 5 degrees warmer. But other than that, I'm doing good.
Oh my goodness, it has been cold. I've just been out into my local town. I had to pop to the doctor's and I was walking back, and you know when your teeth hurt, I'm like, I can't talk, I can't smile because my teeth are hurting. It's that cold.
I'm with you on that. We live by the sea down in Eastbourne, and we took the dog out for a walk at lunchtime, as we always do. And I was like, can we do the quick walk today? Because my head is absolutely. I didn't take a hat, so I was like, it's my own fault. I'm bald. I've been bald for a long time. You'd think I'd learn. But no, I still go out in the hope that one day my lack of hair will protect me. I don't quite know what the plan was.
Oh dear. Oh, that's not good. My husband shaved his hair off, and there are always hats now. So it needs to be part of your uniform always.
I've got loads. I mean, I've got so many branded hats from so many apps and bits and pieces, and you think I just pick one up on the way out, but there's something inside my head that says if I don't wear a hat, then I can pretend I still have hair. I think that's the thing. I can reverse the trend of 20 odd years and go, no, there's still something up there. I'm clearly, not. So,
well, look, thanks for chatting to us today. I'd love to know. We were sort of prepping for this chat, and Joe was saying he just knows everything. I wonder if you want to start by telling us about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, certainly. So I've been working with accountants and bookkeepers for about 9 to 10 years now in a couple of different roles. So I've worked with a forecasting app, a funding app. Ultimately, if I'm being really honest, I never picked to work in technology with accountants. The very short version of that story is I was working in banking. I got made redundant 3 times in the same bank. Not me personally. It wasn't personal. It was like teams. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. So I went for a job in Brighton with a forecasting app that was based there at the time. And I was like, that sounds good. And Helen said to me, and I'll never forget this, she goes, you'll never need to wear a suit again, ever. And I'll give you a MacBook to work on. And I was like, I'm in. And she goes, do you know anything about accounting? Though? Not a clue. But she's like, that's fine, we'll teach you. And it started there. And since then, it's kind of become a bit more on the job. It's become quite a passion of mine to help and educate and work with. So, I currently work for a business called Know It. I've been there for about 4 months. And Know It is in the credit control space. And for me, this is a really interesting space because it's something that we constantly talk in accounting and bookkeeping about the new technology and AI is this popular topic. And everyone's talking about how AI is going to revolutionize your business. None of it counts for anything if you're not getting paid. And if your clients aren't getting paid, then all the wonderful technology that's out there is great. But everyone needs to get paid and tightening up and working with that. So that's why I was really excited by this mission and to bring a relatively new piece of technology to market and shape the journey, both in terms of how we go to market, who we're talking to, how we price it and everything else. So ultimately that's me. But beyond that, I do a bit of public speaking, especially around social media, and I'm sure we'll come on to LinkedIn and stuff, and podcasting and kind of turn my hand to a bit of everything, really.
And that's what I said to Zoe. He's just like the go-to guy. He just seems to. He's always everywhere. And I do see you pop up on LinkedIn, and I see people always tagging you in things. And I'm just like, he knows everybody. And
it's a blessing and a curse.
Yeah. And now you're Know It. I mean, it's just that's it. So tell us a bit about Know It and what's different about Know It compared to other, software out there that help people with credit control.
Yeah, no, look, really good question. And ultimately, the majority of credit control software out there looks at one part of the process, and that's the chasing part is the most popular part that people look at. And that's really important. I hosted a webinar with my CEO today, and we were talking about this, and we said, that's really important. But the real bit that you need to do is the knowing your customer piece, and not just like the standard KYC checks, going deeper than that. You need to understand the customer, understand who they are, who their credit team are. So there's more than just credit checks as well. A lot of people talk about, we credit check all of our clients. Fantastic. You absolutely should. But a credit check's really is useful as an MOT. It's valid at the moment you do it. And like I was telling a story earlier, I genuinely had an MOT done on my car, drove out the garage and the exhaust fell off. And I was like, oh, that was great. And of course they're like, yeah, well, it passed the test. And I'm like, brilliant. But that's kind of a credit check for your business. It's great at that point. So no, it starts with monitoring businesses, and not in a way that some other apps do. We monitor things that are really important, like Gazette notices, but we also monitor unsecured creditors. So your customers' suppliers and your customers' creditors, because if you owe me £50,000 and you've got a client that goes out of business owing you £100,000, that's going to have a huge impact. So knowing that can help you be armed for that, knowing changes in directors and things like that. So that's part of the software called Check It. And then you've got Chase It, which is about honing and refining your credit control and making sure you get paid faster, your clients get paid faster. And I think certainly around kind of the bookkeeping side, this is something that's a really useful tool that can be used with clients. And then beyond that, there's the collect it part. This is a bit that people hate to talk about. People hate to go, oh, we don't. But if people aren't responding to you and they're not paying you, don't just write off the debt. There are ways you can go out there and do it. So collect it, and working in partnership with our parent business, a company called Darcy Quigley, you can go out there and we'll help you recover that funds. And we're successful in about 90% of cases. In about 85% of cases, the client doesn't pay any costs. All the costs are paid by the debtor. So actually, you can end up getting your money back, not paying anything, reducing the total stress and anxiety of doing that. And we do that in a tech platform, and we're building other functionality in around kind of, invoice finance and other bits and pieces. So I think in answer to your question, Joe, the short answer is there's about 4 or 5 bits of technology out there that we put into one, and then we add this really slick collection side on the back end. And it's only commercial. We don't deal with the general public. It's business to business, and we do it in a way that it is a really fair but really successful way of doing it. So I think that's kind of for me why I like Know It as a bit of technology, because it's more than just a bit of tech. It's human. There's people in the office that do the calling, but also you've got the tech that can try and stop you ever having to get to that point.
Yeah, I think what you said about feeling afraid of the chasing part of it, I think, bookkeepers, like everyone's here, we want to make a living. That's what it is. That's a lot of the reason people start a practice, is because they're like, I need to replace an income from something else that just isn't working for me anymore, or and just need to make a bit more so we as a family we're comfortable, and I'd like you to have bigger goals than that. But that is where it has to start. And because we think about it like that, I think going out and saying, hey, you haven't paid me this invoice. I know things are tough at the moment, but my invoice is outstanding. People feel that isn't okay. And then we decide that's our problem. And then we impact our own cash flow. And then we can't invest in our own businesses.
And you can't grow, and you can't take on more clients because you can't hire someone. And that embarrassment about asking, it's a very British thing, right? Like, I'm actually the same. If I've got, I'll book tickets for my friends all the time because I'm the organized one in our friend group. And then I have to send that awkward WhatsApp message and go, here's my bank details. Here's still my bank details. The credit card bills arrived.
Yeah. And I like, there's definitely something we need to do around like self-worth. I was talking to someone earlier about, it was a news story, and it was about Royal Mail and problems with deliveries and things like that. And I was like, we had one of our customers ordered something and it was delivered to their bin, and why would she know it was in the bin? And the person said to me, well, did you seek compensation? I'm like, well, it's such a small amount, we just pay for it again. It's like, from a goodwill point of view, why would you do that? And but then why do we do this to ourselves? There's definitely something for all of us around like self-worth, where we need to know that actually, do you know what, I'm building a business too, and this is what we agreed when we started working together. So we need to put ourselves first sometimes.
Yeah, and actually, but sometimes it's taking that a step further and going, okay, so they're not paying me, they constantly don't pay me, and they always pay me late. What's happening to them that's impacting them. And quite often, I mean, you get some people that just don't pay, and that is the nature of business. But quite often it's because they're having the same problem with their suppliers and that people paying them. So if we can get our own house in order and then help our clients to get their house in order, actually, it's something like 295 million or two. It's a huge number. I'll look it up in a second. But there's a huge number of the impact of commercial payments to the UK economy if people actually got paid on time. It has a huge impact to the economy. And that surprised me. In fact, here you go. It's 2.5 billion annually would boost the economy. And on average, SMEs are owed around £22,000. I don't know about you, but when I had my business, I certainly couldn't afford to carry debts of £22,000 or owed to me £22,000. And I know most can't. And certainly knowing how a lot of bookkeeping businesses are, that they are run at home or sometimes part-time or sometimes as kind of like that's really hard to have those kind of that money owed to you, but we don't want to make the call. So sometimes, sometimes technology can help us with that, and we put some technology in. The technology does a lot of that asking for us, and then when we have to escalate it, we then take it to someone else to do it. And there's something that came up on the webinar I did this morning. I think it's a really interesting point. Someone said, why would you want a customer that doesn't pay you and all the stress and pressure of it? And we hold on to people. We hold on to bad customers because we feel an obligation. But if they're not going to pay us and recognize the work we do for them, we shouldn't be embarrassed to ask for the money, because it's actually, we've done that work and we've done it in good faith.
And the sad truth is, Phil, that those outstanding invoices most probably are not big enough in the first place, because the bookkeepers that we speak to aren't even charging what they should be charging. They're doing this work at a loss and then not getting paid for it, which is just heartbreaking.
It is heartbreaking is the correct word. Like this, and this is what I said before we went live. I was saying about how I really genuinely respect the work that you two have done championing bookkeepers and this whole industry, because it is an industry that has much more value, genuinely much more value than people even give themselves, let alone externally people looking in. And I think it is something that we need to champion more. We need to talk about more, and we need to provide tools to help more. And so going back to the know it thing, this is part of the reason why I was like, this is a really good move for me, because like this is something that impacts accountants, it impacts bookkeepers, it impacts clients, and it impacts businesses. And if we can make just a small dent in that, then that's going to change a lot of people's lives, because the stress that comes with it as well is really bad. If you've got cash, I mean, I grew up as a kid on a council estate with a dad that did 3 jobs, and so money was really tight for us. And like I was that family that occasionally you get the knock on the door and you weren't allowed to answer the door because it was so I know that stress of personally of living hand to mouth and having really tight income. If we can improve that for businesses, and we know that businesses are not in a great position in the UK at the moment, like SME liquidations are higher than they've been since pre-pandemic. Businesses are really struggling. A lot of that is cash flow, and a lot of that will come down to people not getting paid and then having to do other things to supplement that, and then and so on. So anything we can do as an industry, and I think actually as an industry, it's where it sits. A lot of that responsibility should sit with us, because we can support and advise and help clients better, because accountants, bookkeepers, business advisors have that expertise to be able to say, you need to get on top of this. And because most SME business owners are business people in terms of what they want to do. They're not finance people, as we well know, as anyone that's looked at most set of accounts or most kind of receipts that someone just chucks in a box once. We know that like people don't really know what they're doing, right? So like that's why they need that support. And I think we can take it that step further to support around cash flow and everything else.
Yes, I completely agree. And we've got to see the value of what we do. That is so crucial. Can you tell me about actually, do you know what? I'm going to ask something else. Joe is on your podcast, I heard. Not yet. It hasn't come out yet. Tell me about the podcast. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so I'm a serial podcast creator. I've created podcasts for years. I've got an ongoing podcast for film and TV that I do with an old friend of mine, my old business partner, in fact. But I've done 2 podcasts in this space previously, and when I was moving roles, I wanted to do another one. And for me, I wanted to look at an angle that was different. And so I was like, I want to find a story about why people create a business or create a product or create an event or a service and dig into that. So it's called The Story Of, and each episode looks at the story of a different founder or creator or innovator and about the product they've brought to market. And through being around for a while and you know, having a decent connection and Black Book, I've had some fantastic people on the podcast so far. I've recorded the first 10 episodes. The second half, where Joe's episode is, it comes out the next couple of weeks, is running now post the Christmas break, and I've been lucky to interview. I've interviewed Lucy Cohen. I've interviewed Joe, of course. I've interviewed Lynn, the founder at Know It. I've interviewed Hamish, who founded Xero and has now moved on to Firm Check. So, you know, I'm even talking to Richard Sargent about the infamous Bristol boat party, which I thought was quite a fun episode. So, like, it's just kind of taking that idea of a founder and really digging into their story of why they did it. And I spoke to Will Farnell as well, and why they did it and what their journey is. And in fact, the reason I spoke to Joe was about Johan, and Johan suggested Joe as someone to talk to. And I was like, fantastic, let's unpick the thread. And I think, you know, so I love that idea. And people have been really generous with their time, but generous with their stories. And some people have shared some incredible things. And Joe, you won't mind me saying, the podcast with you kind of really go into your story and some of the challenges you've had personally and professionally. And I think stuff like that really helps people see that you can not everyone has to have it together 100% of the time to be successful. And in fact, if someone does have it 100% together 100% of the time, there's probably something wrong in that self as well. Someone's probably kidding themselves, right? So the episode, you can get it on Spotify, Amazon, and you know, all the Apple and all the usual places. It's called The Story Of Podcast, and each episode's about 30 minutes. And I'm planning season 2 as we speak, which is another way of saying. I don't quite know who's going to be on season 2. I've got a list of about 30 people that want to do it and 10 episodes. So I'm like, and not the time to do it at the moment. So I'll find it. But yeah, it's fun. It's really cool, and I'm really enjoying. I also spoke to Rachel Harris as well. I mean, the quality of guests and people that have given their time up to me has been phenomenal. So I'm always genuine. I'm always grateful for that.
It was good fun. It
was. We had a laugh as well.
We will share my episode with our community as soon as it comes out. And yeah, if they're not bored of hearing my story, but I always manage to find something else. I'm like, I've not spoken of that. That's the problem. The older you get, the more stories you have, and you're trying to fit it into half an hour. So Phil, I was talking to Zoe about the fact that you are this guy that knows everyone, you're everywhere, and I've seen in the comments the lovely Rachel Gregory saying 3 of our favourite people from Accountex, loving this, which is so sweet. When on your LinkedIn, you do appear to just be the person that knows so many things, and Zoe said, "Is he an accountant?" I was like, I don't know. He just knows lots of accountancy things, and you share like news and what's going on in fintech, what's going on with software, what's going, you know, everything. How do you curate that kind of content? How do you know that people want? Obviously, people want it because you've become like a thought leader. You're not. You know, you're not. What we talk about. Sometimes we think thought leaders are like controversial, and you don't come. You're not like that. You're not saying something just to get people. You're genuinely just sharing insights, and people gravitate towards it. And I think people like really respect that. How did that come about? Because as I said, you're not from this background.
It's a really interesting question, and the answer is I have a tech Slack group that I built a few years ago now, and it was a post-COVID where there was a load of kind of people of a similar level in the industry, and what I realized was myself, Sam Horner, a couple of other people have been around for quite a while. We had this great contact book, but sometimes contacting people was an absolute nightmare. So I was like, how can I supercharge my ability to do this? And I was like, I know, I'll build a Slack group and I invite all the people that I need to talk to into that Slack group. And then if I need to talk to them, I can just Slack them. I don't have to go through PAs and emails and stuff like that. And Rachel is part of that group as well. And I did what we wanted to keep it as a community of people, of tech people, right? So like, so we could talk about some of the challenges and kind of solutionize and stuff like that. And I thought one of the things that came out of that is I want to keep people coming back. I want to keep people engaged. And the best way to do that is to share what's happening. And I want to encourage other people, because for me, if I know something, I can go, cool. So someone is doing that, or this accountancy firm is doing that. Let's get on that. There's something in there. So I started to share that, and I started to curate from a couple of different sources. There's a couple of accounting web, ICAW, ICB as well. I there's Accountancy Daily, I think is another one. So all these different kind of sources, and then a few fintech sources. And then so once a week, I just sit there on a Monday morning predominantly, and I kind of curate. I go through and go, what's relevant to the people I know and what's relevant to the work they do. And that encourages other people to share and other people to share and other people. And then you get this great resource. And then I curate that and put it in a newsletter on LinkedIn and put that once a month that just kind of puts it all together. And I break it down into kind of accounting news, accounting and bookkeeping news. I break it down then into fintech and then into finance. Because I think the three are linked. You've got like the core role, who's moving, who's doing what firms have been acquired. And then you've got like the businesses and technologies that support them, and the finance and banking industry, which kind of underpins everything that we all do. So, and it started reasonably well. I think I got to about 2,000 subscribers off the first issue or two, and it's up to about nearly 5,000 now. And someone messaged me. I put a link in that they did, and someone messaged me and went, I couldn't work out over the weekend why we got this spike in downloads, and I realized you shared it in your newsletter, and I was like, oh, okay, cool, it works. People are reading it. And to me, I think it's that exact thing that you said. I'm not out here to be controversial and poke bears. There's plenty of people out there that do that. And if that's your go-to market, that's absolutely fine. And I've got no issue with that. It's, it is how you go. But for me, I just want to be a resource, and I want to be someone that is thought of as someone that knows a lot and is a go-to, because then you become that expert in your field. And that's led me to some fantastic opportunities. I'm sat here with you two today, right? Like, I've done podcasts and talks and keynotes and all these kind of things, and speaking at Accountex, which is always, I have to say, and I'm not saying it just because Rachel's here, always one of my favorite things to do, to talk at Accountex. It's such a great and engaged audience. So all of these things have come from that, and that's come from being in the industry and having, I think, a genuine passion for the industry and what I do. Because I think if you don't have that, you see people out there that kind of go, oh. I actually genuinely love this industry. I love working with accountants and bookkeepers. I love working with fintech businesses as well, and like it's something that I've found a real passion for. And I want that to come across, but I don't want to be that person that like. There's always that thing where people say, you've got to be careful that you're not too vanilla, that you sit and you just get ignored. So hopefully, I try to just kind of share enough and put some personality around it, and then put some other stuff and the podcast, and ultimately just there in that whole role to support and be a go-to. It's fun as well, right? It constantly helps me educate myself to what's going. It forces me to educate myself constantly to what's going out on the market. So I'm always aware of things. And then you get people come to you and go, oh, have you heard this rumor? And you go, no, tell me the rumor. And they tell you the rumor, and you go, oh, that's good. And you do a bit of research on it. And then, so I think it's my inner Clark Kent investigative journalist that, because I can't fly and I haven't got, I don't wear my pants on the outside of my jeans, but, I like the reporting and the insight bit. And maybe that's the podcast as well, right? Like that kind of talking to people and finding stuff out. But it's fun and people seem to buy into it and get a lot out of it, and that works really well for me.
Cool. Okay, so I feel like you need to create this new superhero uniform now. So that's for you.
I feel like I might have made a rod for my own back on that one. I need to find my anyone out there that's got an AI image generator, please do an AI image generation of me as a superhero, and let's just see how that looks. I don't know what it would be called, but it could be an interesting one.
Okay, that's some kind of competition there for that.
Yeah.
So Phil, this is really interesting because it's only Wednesday, last couple of days, we've had a few different conversations about thought leadership within our community. So we ran a masterclass this morning with Janet Murray, who's a marketing guru, I would describe her as, ex-journalist and content strategist. She was talking about how bookkeepers, when they're in terms of marketing and social media, how we need to spend more time thinking about becoming a thought leader, and how that helps us engage and interact with potential clients and our existing clients. And then we were also talking about this in detail with our mastermindees in our group on our call yesterday. We were talking about content with our mastermind, and we were talking about thought leadership there. And one of the things we were talking about was curating content and basically looking out for the kind of things that are of interest to us and are going to be of interest to our clients. So this is really interesting. And and yesterday, Jo went on LinkedIn and she put a post out about the post office and got lots of people sort of talking about it as sort of sharing something else that wasn't her content and asking for opinions. And something that comes up for me, and you mentioned this word like rumors, what's the rumor? And that for me in my personal value system is not my cup of tea. Like the gossip, I don't like it. If there was a WhatsApp group gossiping, Jo knows this, I'll leave. That for me doesn't sit well. And I think it's just good for us to know when we're thinking about what kind of thought leader am I? If there was a personality quiz, what do you feel comfortable with? What's in your comfort zone? And I'm sorry, I'm not saying that as a, oh my gosh.
I know exactly what you mean though.
What you're saying is you're being curious. And I think us deciding how does being curious look? And we've all got to do CPD all the time. We've got to be reading. We've got to be staying up to date. So, this is just part of growing in your profession, but it's about being interested, isn't it?
Yeah, look, the rumor thing, like if someone comes to me with something, generally it's because it has an impact on the industry, and that for me that kind of makes me go, okay, cool, something's happening over there, let's go and have a look. And I'll never put out a rumor. I'm like you, I'm not interested in gossip. But if I start to hear something, I'm like, okay, cool, there might. And generally you find that in our industry, because it's quite close knit, people will, like, I found out about a couple of sales of businesses before they've happened because someone's just mentioned it to me and said, oh, I've heard such and such might be on the market. And you go, oh, that's interesting. And then you kind of go, okay, you wait for it to come out. And when it goes out, you go, oh, cool, I knew that. But, I'd never, I definitely wouldn't share that. I think, but being curious is so interesting. And in terms of sharing content, the tip I would always give is don't always stick directly to what you do. So there's loads of stuff you could share around bookkeeping and that kind of thing. And that's super important. But also share stuff that's tangential to that and stuff that still impacts the businesses you deal with. Because ultimately what you want your businesses and your customers, your clients to do is see you as a source of knowledge about what's happening in the finance and accounting, tech, whatever it is, space. So I tend to try and be slightly tangential to the core as well. So I spend a bit of time around banking and finance and stuff, because whilst it doesn't impact directly, it certainly has a third degree connection, so to speak. So I think it's really, really important to kind of share what's in your wheelhouse, but also share what's slightly outside of it, but still related, because then those clients are going to keep coming back to you. because they're going to keep checking your profile because they're like, oh, actually, I saw that really interesting thing about the post office, or that really interesting thing about HMRC on there, and they'll go, oh, I know what someone that's going to probably have a good comment on that. So I always think that's pretty useful, is to kind of just look slightly outside. But my other tip, if you're doing something on LinkedIn and things like that, is always share with comment. So don't just, because it helps to reach. So never just share an article or just do the share and say, hey, look, I've seen this, think it might be interesting to people. Here's a little bit of my take on it. And I think that tends to grow that engagement a little bit. But no, I absolutely agree. I think the more you can position yourself, and there's some great accountants and bookkeepers out there that do position themselves in the center of conversations, and you just know that they're going to get clients from it. You just know that they're going to grow their business from doing that, because people are going to see that and people go, well, actually, my accountant's not like that, or my bookkeeper's not like that. I want more of that. And then you get a little bit more comfortable and you let your personality shine through, and you know, that's all the fun stuff.
Yeah, it's not easy. I mean, even yesterday, I actually did my post with Zoe there, and actually our mastermind is holding me account, because I still find it hard, and it was a very emotive subject. I really feel for these sub-post masters, and when I was watching the episode, I was thinking, God, if someone had been a good bookkeeper, if there was a third party checking these reconciliations. And I've been thinking it, but I hadn't posted it until we were in a group, and I was like, oh, I could share this. And so I still, very much need that support, and know that I'm not going to get low. And people are very, very supportive, and people agreed. But I still find it, even though it wasn't really that controversial, I just was saying bookkeeping can help small business, basically. But it still takes a while, and so, but I've still grown a personal brand without, I love this saying, poking the bear. I love that.
Yeah.
I've never poked the bear.
Yeah, and I don't think you like when I look at the work that you and Zoe do, I don't sit there and go, oh, they're sitting out there and they're being very controversial about. You're not. What you're doing is you're telling. You're being very supportive and nurturing, and but you're also holding the industry and people to account, and I think that's really important. So I think you can do it without poking the bear, and you can be super successful. Joe, when I put a first post out when I was working in the forecasting stuff, I remember someone commented on the post and they were quite negative about what I was saying, and I panicked and I deleted the post because I thought I was going to get fired. And I was like, oh, panic, delete. I'd never do that now. People will always have an opinion. And if you put an opinion out there, you're almost giving people permission to have an opinion. Now, you can express that opinion and you can be contrarian and disagree. And I think that's absolutely fine, by the way. If everyone's agreeing with you, you're probably living somewhere in a dictatorship, and that's never a good thing. So I think it's good to have people disagree with you. If people don't do that in the right way, and there are certain comment boards on certain industry websites I would consider to be really bad at this. And certainly I find as a reader, they tend to comment more when certain genders and put opinion pieces on there. I mean, I've pretty much given everything away there. I don't know why I'm even hinting. I've pretty much said, there you go, there's me poking the bear a little bit. That's going to get me bad comments somewhere. But do you know what? When that happens, it reflects worse on them than it does on you. And actually, if someone's coming on there and being an idiot and saying something that isn't very nice, actually, it doesn't reflect on you at all, because there'll be 1,000 people that will support you, and maybe one that thinks that other person's right. And so sometimes you just have to accept that not everyone's going to agree with you, and some people won't do it in the best way. At least with LinkedIn and things like that, at least LinkedIn especially, people have to use their real name. And I think that makes it a slightly safer space on certain accounting website messaging boards. They don't have to do that. And I think that's true. That gives people I spoke to the late, great John Stockdyke about it once. And John said, and I do agree, he would rather, if they made everyone use their name, it would reduce a lot of the comments that the vulnerableness that people show and say, I'm struggling with this, I need help, but I don't want to tell you who it is because I'm actually part of a bigger business and it's going to impact on them. And that would reduce the conversation. But the side to that is it also allows people to say stuff that they wouldn't say to you in real life. So there is a balance, and I totally understand that. And I think ultimately it probably does more good than bad. I just, being honest, I just wish that the criticism and the harsher comments weren't all generally in the direction when certain people did certain things. I think it could be spread out a little bit more.
Yeah, I think that's why it's so important for us at the Six Figure Bookkeepers Club to have a very safe community where we will remove people from our group if they are a troublemaker, because it doesn't help anyone. We want to have a supportive environment, and you can use your real name and you can post things, and it's not and it's okay to ask questions, because nobody knows everything.
No. That supportiveness is so important. Like being able to, this webinar this morning, we were talking about credit control and how to do credit control better and the challenges. And we had loads of people messaging me with questions personally. And I just said, look, here's my email address. Just email me if you're not comfortable doing it. I've already had 3 people email me and say, actually, I've got this challenge, or we're having problems here. How can you support? Or what can I do? And actually, that power of community is amazing. The tech community I've built is great because people are vulnerable in there and they ask questions, and it could be about, I'm having a problem managing this situation. How can I do it better? Or I'm not, our commission structure is not right. How can we change it? Or we haven't got an expenses policy. You're not going to put that on LinkedIn because it would reflect in a different way. Having a community like you've built, and where people can ask questions and can be vulnerable, I think there's so much power in that. And yeah, so well done. And please, it's lovely to see that and hear it and hear people talk so positively about what you do and the community you've built.
Oh, thank you so much, Phil. Thank you. That really does mean a lot, because we don't always hear it back from, and we do feel like, what do we say when, we feel very pink in a very blue world, and it's
yeah,
we're like the Barbies over here, but we're not. But we've got a serious business.
Say that though. No, but you say that though. Who won the war? Who won the box office fight this year? And it was Barbie, right? And so I think that tells you that the pink side is much more powerful than people give it credit for. And when you put something out there that's intelligent, smart, and works really, really well, people respond to it. I mean, even if some people did do silly stuff like, it talked badly about men. I was like, just watch the film and just but that's the point, right? Like, It's like, look, pink, I think Barbie proves that pink can win in a blue world, absolutely, in a fair fight.
Absolutely, and we find really interesting is that the people that are listening to our podcast, we have a lot of guys listening to podcasts. And my son's friend was on the train, and he said, oh my God, there's a guy traveling to the training to Crew, and he's listening to your mum on the podcast. And I'm like, are we like some kind of guilty secret that men are listening to us?
100%. Yeah, I 100%. Like, it's that thing where like you walk into the room and someone will flip their phone quickly, flip the screen because they don't want you to see what they're doing. That'll be them listening to your podcast, 100%.
That's what it is. That's what it is.
Good on them. I think that's great. I mean, I years ago I embraced my feminine side, and when I became a huge fan of an overnight fan of Drag Race, and I used to sit there on the train like this because I didn't want people to see that I was watching it. And after a while, I'm like, I don't really care. And then it gets to the point where like people walk past and they look at you and go, what are you watching? And I'm like, hey, brilliant, best show on TV. You should all watch it. And you become quite proud of it after that. Like,
I love it. Well, look, I've loved this. I think we should have the follow-up about everyone's guilty secret podcast listens and TV shows. Maybe let us know in the comments if we're your guilty secret. Thank you ever so much, Phil, for chatting to us today. We've really enjoyed this. How can people connect with you and find out more about what you do?
Absolutely. The best way to connect with me is on LinkedIn. I am Phil Hobden on LinkedIn. So just go on, connect with me. And the best thing about me is I absolutely never do sales pitches. So if you want to know more about Know It, I can set up a demo and talk you through how we can support your business and your clients' businesses. But I've never done the hard sell, right? It's got to be that thing where it's got to be right for you. It's got to be right for your clients and fit everything. So if you want to know more about what we do there, fantastic. If you want to connect with me and subscribe to my newsletter, it's on LinkedIn. Just look me up. And if you ever see me at an event, come over and tell me that you listen to me on the podcast. And that'd be great. I love that. I love it when people randomly walk up to you and go, I saw you on LinkedIn the other day. And I'm like, what did I do?
Oh, thanks, Phil. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in today. Lovely to have you here. And we'll see you next week for another episode of the podcast. Take care.
Thanks for having me on.
Bye.